Some love stories don't end with forever. They don't end with a final argument, or slam doors, or dramatic goodbyes. They end with silence. Not the loud kind, not the kind people notice, but the quiet kind. The kind that settles into a room when two people stop trying to be heard. The kind that grows slowly until one day it feels heavier than words. This is the story of When Love Was Enough, a story that doesn't ask whether love is real, but whether love is enough. This story unfolds in two timelines. One shows the beginning of love, soft, warm, full of possibility. The other shows its slow collapse, quiet, confusing, and deeply painful. And the heartbreak comes from watching them side by side. Because you don't just see what love became, you see what it used to be. And once you've seen that, you can never forget it. In the present, we meet Gustavu and Elizabeth. They are married. They share the same house, the same bed, the same daily routine. Morning alarms, quiet breakfasts, familiar silence. But emotionally, they live in different worlds. They wake up next to each other, yet feel completely alone. They move through the house carefully, as if one wrong word might turn into another argument. Their conversations are short, measured, fragile. When they speak, it often turns tense, not because they hate each other, but because they're tired. Tired of explaining themselves, tired of defending their feelings, tired of hoping things will change. There's a specific kind of sadness that exists when love doesn't die, but slowly disappears. It's quieter than heartbreak, harder to explain. That's where Gustavu and Elizabeth are, still together, still married, but already drifting apart. Gustavu still tries, in small, almost invisible ways. He cracks jokes that fall flat. He reaches out during quiet moments. He searches for signs that she's still there. He wants connection. He wants reassurance. He wants to feel chosen again. But Elizabeth has pulled away, not because she's angry, not because she hates him, but because something inside her feels empty. She listens when he talks, but her mind is somewhere else. She nods, she responds, but emotionally, she's already gone. Their home feels heavy, like the walls remember better days. Silences stretch too long. Eye contact feels uncomfortable. And even when they lie in the same bed, there's a distance you can't cross. Not with words, not with touch. This isn't a story about betrayal. There's no cheating, no secrets, no obvious villain. Just two people who loved each other deeply and are now struggling to remember how to reach each other. What makes this story painful is that the love was real. You can feel it in the quiet moments, in the way Gustavu still looks at Elizabeth, in the way Elizabeth hesitates before pulling away. At one point, they were everything to each other. So what happened? The present keeps asking that question, but the answer doesn't live here. It lives in the past. Because before the silence, there was laughter. To understand how love faded, we have to go back to when life felt lighter, back to when expectations were small, back to when love felt easy. Years earlier, Gustavu and Elizabeth were young, hopeful, carefree. They hadn't been worn down by life yet. They didn't know how much time could change people. They didn't know how love could stretch and sometimes tear. Elizabeth was focused, a nursing student. She believed in structure, in plans, in progress. She liked knowing where she was headed. She believed love should fit into a future that made sense. Gustavu was different. He worked odd jobs, played music whenever he could, and lived in the moment. He didn't dream big, he dreamed soft, about happiness, about being present, about loving fully even if life stayed simple. And somehow, those differences didn't push them apart, they pulled them closer. Elizabeth admired Gustavu's calm, his freedom, his warmth. Gustavu admired Elizabeth's drive, her focus, her sense of purpose. They felt balanced together. Their early love was awkward, playful, unpolished. They talked for hours about nothing. They laughed without trying. Time moved differently when they were together. Gustavi sang to Elizabeth in public without caring who was watching. He loved her openly, fearlessly. Elizabeth laughed at his boldness. She didn't love loudly like he did. She loved quietly, but deeply. She felt safe with him, seen, accepted, understood. Back then, love felt enough. They believed it would stay that way. They didn't worry about the future. They didn't plan for disappointment. They didn't imagine growing apart. They just loved. And that's what makes the present so painful. Because when you've seen love at its best, its absence feels unbearable. You don't just miss the person, you miss who you were with them. The story moves back and forth between who they were and who they've become, and every shift hurts a little more, because the contrast is impossible to ignore. You begin to realize something uncomfortable. Love doesn't always fade because people stop caring. Sometimes, love fades because people grow, and they don't grow in the same direction. But at this point in the story, Gustavu and Elizabeth don't know that yet. They still believe effort is enough. They still believe love can survive anything. They don't see the cracks forming. They don't hear the silence growing louder. Not yet. Because before love began to collapse, there was laughter. There was hope. There was a belief that forever was guaranteed. And in the next part, we go deeper into that beginning, into the choices they made, into the moment love began to change. Before silence, there was laughter. Before heartbreak, there was love. And to understand how love collapsed, we have to return to where it all began. Part 2 is where it all begins.